You know, the buildings all around us, they aren't just concrete and steel, they're telling a story. And today, we're diving into one city whose architecture is just, well, it's like a fantastic novel about modern design. It's the story of how a whole nation found its voice, using just wood, stone, and glass.
I mean, think about it. How can a bunch of simple materials, right? Stone, wood, glass, how can they actually capture the spirit of a nation? Its struggles, its big wins, its entire identity? Well, we're going to find out by looking at one particular city that basically became the canvas for a total design revolution.
And that city? It's Jyväskylä, right in the heart of Finland. This is a place where you can literally walk through time. I'm serious. You go from these humble wooden huts all the way to the game-changing work of a global icon. So this isn't just about one city's history. It's really the story of how Finland itself found its unique voice in architecture.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to start way back, deep in the Finnish forests. Then, we'll see how a national identity started to bubble up. After that, a true genius arrives on the scene. And we'll wrap things up in the super innovative, sustainable city that exists today. All right, let's dive into part one.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're going way back to the 19th century. Picture this settlement that's basically just carved right out of the massive Finnish wilderness.
When you look at the city's timeline, you can see these really clear chapters, these architectural eras. Each one left its own mark. But for us, the story kicks off in 1837. And the vision back then, it was super practical, it was all about wood, and it came straight from the forest.
You gotta understand, in the very beginning, the only architect was survival. Just imagine it, a simple grid of wooden houses, maybe painted in these soft reds and yellows that would really stand out against the snow. Every single design choice was made for a reason, a response to that crazy cold climate. You had sloped roofs so the snow would slide right off, thick walls, and tiny windows just to keep every bit of precious heat inside. This was architecture born from absolute necessity. But, a city doesn't just want to survive. It wants to grow. It wants to thrive. And for Jyväskylä, the thing that really lit that fire was education.
And this building, this was a huge deal, a massive cultural shift. It wasn't just a school, not by a long shot. It was a statement. See, at the time, Finland was trying to carve out its own identity, something separate from Sweden and Russia. And to do that, it needed buildings, architecture that could speak for the whole nation. And this was the beginning.
And wow, the change was dramatic. Suddenly, architecture wasn't just about being practical anymore. It became deeply symbolic. That humble wood from the early homes, it gave way to these proud, strong stone and brick buildings for public spaces. These were materials that basically screamed, "We are here, and we are here to stay." The goal wasn't just staying warm anymore. It was about creating inspiration, about permanence. So this newfound confidence got a name: National Romanticism. It was a whole style. Architects started looking inward, at their own backyard. They drew inspiration from Finnish folklore, from those rugged landscapes. They started using local materials like rough granite to create buildings that just felt solid, ancient, almost like they'd grown right out of the earth.
So you have this growing city. It's full of ambition. It's finding its identity, and it's about to become the creative playground for one of the absolute giants of 20th century architecture.
Now, when a young Alvar Aalto showed up in the 1920s, he wasn't the modernist icon we know today. Not at all. His early stuff was all Nordic classicism. Very orderly, balanced, kind of inspired by ancient Greece and Rome. But Jyväskylä, this city became his personal laboratory. It's where he forged a totally new path, making this radical jump toward the clean lines and pure function of modernism.
Because here's the thing about Aalto. He didn't just do modernism, he reinvented it. And he did it right here, turning this entire city into his masterpiece.
Aalto's take on modernism was, well, it was just different. A lot of his contemporaries were building these cold, machine-like structures. But Aalto, he filled his work with warmth, with nature. He loved using wood, these flowing curved lines, and he was absolutely obsessed with natural light. The result? You got these incredibly functional spaces that still felt, fundamentally human.
And his legacy is literally everywhere you look in the city. You've got the university campus, where the buildings just seem to flow with the landscape. You have the iconic museums and the absolutely stunning Salo Town Hall just nearby. Every single one is like a masterclass in his unique, human-centered approach to design.
37. Just let that number sink in. That's how many buildings Aalto designed right here in this region. That's more than anywhere else on the planet. And that's why this place isn't just a city that has some Alto buildings, it is, without a doubt, the city of Alto.
And that philosophy, that's his real legacy. At a time when modernism could feel so cold and sterile, so mechanical, he proved it could actually be human. He showed the entire world that a modern building could feel just as comfortable, just as natural, and just as welcoming as your own home.
All right, so after World War II, Jyväskylä, and really all of Finland, was staring down a brand new challenge: how to deal with massive, rapid growth and modernization.
The post-war years brought this huge wave of super-efficient modernist housing. You know, those practical concrete apartment blocks. The city started sprawling outwards with suburbs and shopping centers. But as all this new stuff started replacing the old, something really important happened. A kind of counter-movement popped up, a new appreciation for those historic wooden buildings that held the city's very first stories.
And that brings us right up to today, because Jyväskylä isn't some city that's just frozen in the past. Nope. It's constantly building on its incredible architectural legacy. You can still feel that same spirit of innovation today. It's totally alive and well. Old, forgotten industrial areas, they're being reborn as cool cultural hubs. You see stunning new buildings, like the cool college church, that use wood and light in ways that feel both completely modern and totally timeless. And that deep connection to nature, it's stronger than ever. But now it shows up as a real commitment to sustainability.
So when you boil it all down, this is really the city's architectural DNA. Of course, Alto's legacy is the biggest piece of the pie, but you can't separate it from that deep connection to nature, that constant push for innovation, and, really importantly, a genuine respect for its own history. It's just a perfect blend.
So, yeah, pretty much every street corner in Jyväskylä tells a piece of this amazing story. It's a journey from this tiny little town just trying to survive the cold, all the way to a confident, forward-thinking city that actually helps shape the course of modern architecture worldwide.
And that kind of leaves you with one last thought. The next time you're walking around your own city or town, maybe look a little closer at the buildings. Seriously, because they aren't just standing there. They're telling you a story. The question is, what story is it?